So first I'm going to show you the paths. Okay. Now it's often mentioned straight and narrow is the path. Okay. So what's happening here is that we have these three channels that have been known as the Pingala, the Ida or the Ida, and the Sushumna. Okay. And to make it very simple for those that don't like things complex, and let me make sure that it's hosting my image here. Yeah, it's hosting my image. You have these two channels on the left and the right, and we talked about this. This is like the left and the right side of the brain. And then we have this center channel, okay? Now, this is basic. So I'm explaining this in a basic way, so this should not confuse you. You have three channels inside of your body. One of them is actually responsible for bringing up the heat, while another one is responsible for bringing the cold, okay? And one of those channels has always been likened unto the sun, which is actually in the base of the body. It's in the root chakra. It's around your sexual organ where all the fire is. Do you not feel the heat and the passion that comes from that? And then the other one that is based on the cooling is somewhere around the third eye or in the center of the head. And that is what is known as the moon or the subconscious or the cool, right? And so that's what these two channels stand for. And then we have this center channel, which is actually where we mix these two energies. And that's also a cognate of the center of the spine. So let me show you a few other diagrams that say that same thing. Because also your organs, which we know as the planets, okay? Remember, the organs are the planets. They play a certain tone. There's a harmonics of the spheres. We talk about that with the golden ratio and the golden intonements and the whole ratio and the whole octaves, etc. And these are the sounds that come from the vibration and the oscillation of these organs functioning. When they function properly, they make a harmonic tone. Some call that 528 hertz. Okay, it's a harmonic. And when they're not functioning properly, it's like listening to an orchestra where a few instruments are out of tune. And also, it's not pleasing when that happens. And it also causes a form of chaos. And I'll show you that it actually causes the production of an illusion of being separate. Okay? Now, between these paths that I'm showing you here, these paths that you see here, and even if you drill in further, you get these, what I would say is micro paths. It's like they're like roads off the main highway. So everything about the consciousness is actually designed around having these different interlacing, what they call the horizontal and the vertical waters. We also know that in the torus field where 2 points intersect, that is where life is created. It just means that the two opposing forces where they intersect, there you will find life as you know it on planet Earth. And the reason why I'm bringing this up first is because you're going to need to keep this diagram inside of your own mind. You live in one, but you're going to need to keep this diagram inside of your mind every time you start thinking about why you should maintain balance. Okay? And this is because the whole art of occultism as it stands, occultism is only the art of balancing out the sun and the moon inside of your body. Okay, inside of your consciousness, to balance out the two poles. Now, just because you cannot balance them out doesn't mean that something is not going to happen. And this is what I'm going to get into right now. Here's also another ancient symbol before we dive into this, just to realize that these ancient symbols are virtually identical in their schools of thought. One itself being hermetics and the other one itself being alchemy. That these two symbols are actually hinting to the same thing, that you have to understand each component, and we can use the caduceus because it's the most familiar that we're dealing with right now, that we have these two channels. So obviously in the caduceus, you have the two snakes. These are the two snakes, okay? Ida, Pingala, okay? And then also you have this center channel. That center channel is the Sushumna, okay? And then we have these wings up here, which you see wings also on the left in the Ankh, which is symbolic of you cannot get out of your body. You cannot fly. You cannot transcend from one who crawls upon the earth or actually is the earth, which you'll see here in a minute, versus one who traverses the heavens or has wings. And we even know that in biology, snakes eventually really evolve into being birds. Okay? The actual, let's say that's the scales of the snake become feathers of a bird when they have transcended. So this idea of transcending up the ladder of light is what we've all become to know as raising kundalini, okay? Because kundalini is likened unto and is embodied in many cases by a serpent or a snake-like energy, okay? And these are, when you say snake, there's so much that goes on with it. This is not your standard garden snake. This is not even just a dragon in itself. These are all metaphors for physical planes, wisdom, knowledge. That's why you see Hermes with this in his hand. So these symbols literally say that in the base or in the bottom or on the planets or on the plane exist the snakes, okay? The physical form of existence. And as you rise up through these channels, which are the activations of the chakras, which is getting the glands and the organs functioning properly and in balance, and also learning how to use them. So let me pause here for just a brief moment. Remember, we talked about, like, what is the whole purpose of Earth anyway, right? And I dropped those jewels for anybody who wants to pick them up, because there's so many, oh, we're trapped, we're slaves, and, you know, and all that may have happened. But the original purpose here is for you to learn about your power, because you were given your power already. It was an inheritance. There was no way it could be kept from you. However, you don't know what you have. Just like if I have a child and that child has always been raised in a wealthy family, they don't know that they're rich. It's normal for them. They need to actually see poor first before they realize what rich is. So that's the contrast. That's actually why these planes were created. It's a universe. It's a university. It's a place to teach you lessons based on contrast. But the most important lesson is who you are and about your powers. And again, we talk about this descent of Anana, which is, it's basically a code for flesh and all of the diabolical aspects of it too. But that Anana being stripped, earrings gone, you know, crown gone. This is the crown chakra. Robe gone. This is the awareness of the aura. All these things she was stripped of before she could come all the way down to the underworld and to actually begin to see her son. And what this is a metaphor of is that all of your powers and abilities have been hidden in a way. So that way, you can go through these experiences, like all of these traumas and things that you see on earth. Like, you're going to be tested to have courage. You're going to be tested to love. And if you get through these tests, you will then get this reward. It was as simple as that. You go through the test, you get the reward. You go through the test, you get the reward, you unlock the ability. This is a role-playing game. All of the ideas that they're getting from these video games and even the computer and everything that you're seeing in the reality, there is really nothing new under the sun or nothing new in the soul. Okay? That's what that means. And so it's literally saying that, hey, this is a role-playing process where you're going to take on these characters called egos, and you're going to keep going through these experiences with the egos, and you're going to zigzag through your experience. Now, let me show you another diagram here very briefly, just to get it very clear for you on how elaborate this is. This is not a game, okay? Meaning that, well, it can be game-like, but meaning that they're not playing with you. Okay, on this diagram, what you're witnessing, and some may have to cock your head to the side, what you're witnessing is you're witnessing the Kabbalistic kingdom inside of the consciousness, which is also projected externally. Okay, this is the Cadman. This is also known as the Temple of Solomon. Okay, and while you're trying to zoom in and see the specifics and maybe fascinated by all the symbolism and all of that, as a snake is fascinated by shiny things, the easiest thing for you to understand is that every time you zigzag when you zigzag out onto the left or the right of the system, you experience what is called the illusion, okay? Because the illusion is the illusion of separation.